Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to do a brief video on how to complete the research table assignment. So the first thing I'm going to do is download the research table instruction guide. Here we are. And then review the assignment components. So I have identified an article that I'll be using for this. It is one of my own articles. So this should be relatively easy for me to do. It is titled Exploring the Dimensionality of Trauma-Informed Care, Implications for Theory and Practice. So to start out, I'm going to provide the APA citation for each article in the citation column of the table. So here, because there are 3 or more authors, I am going to put Hales et al. With the date. And the date this was published was 2017. Now I will include a reference for each one of my articles down here, and I will write that up really quick. So you start out with the author's last names, followed by first initials with an ampersand symbol before the last author. And then you use sentence case to plug in the title, Exploring the Dimensionality of Trauma-Informed Care. Lastly, you put the name of the journal in italics and uppercase. Those human service organizations, management, leadership, and governance. And then you put a comma. And here you put the volume number in italics. It was in volume 41. And then the issue number in parentheses after, followed by the pages. Lastly, per the 7th edition, we want to copy and paste in the DOI if it's available. And this DOI basically is just the identification number that each peer-reviewed article has. So there's a complete reference. I have the citation in the table. Next, we want to go to the research question and hypotheses and begin plugging in our information. So you might first go through and read the abstract, get a sense of what's being done in this study. You might even be able to get some of the information you need in the tables in the abstract. But remember, in class, we talked about whenever you're looking for the research question hypotheses, the easiest way to find it is to scroll down to the methods section of the paper. And then look in the previous section. And here we see this last paragraph in the introduction and lit review begins with the second aim of the paper. So there might not always be hypotheses or research questions. Some papers have aims instead. So what we want to do is find the first aim. And you could do Control F and search. And here we see through our search that the first aim of the paper will be to confirm the factor structure of the TICS, which is the Trauma-Informed Climate Scale. So in here, I'm going to plug in aim 1. And then as discussed on Saturday, for the aims, research questions, hypotheses, you can pretty much write these verbatim. So we'll put the first aim is to confirm the factor structure of the, and I'll spell it out here, trauma-informed climate scale, and then define the acronym in parentheses. Underneath, I'm going to put aim 2. And then copy down the second aim of the paper involves comparing the respective fit of a multidimensional and unidimensional model of TIC. So basically in this paper, we're looking at the factor structure of trauma-informed care through the perspective of staff members. So my colleague and mentor, Dr. Nahiski, and I developed the trauma-informed climate scale. We based it on a 5-component model of trauma-informed care following Fallot and Harris. And basically, they characterize trauma-informed organizations as those whose cultures, climates, and practices are governed by 5 key guiding principles: the experiences of safety, trust, choice, collaboration, and empowerment from the perspectives of both staff and clients. So in an initial paper, what we did was we examined the exploratory factor analysis of these 5 dimensions. It's kind of an initial step in developing the validity of a new instrument. And what we found was that there were very high correlations amongst these 5 principles or values of trauma-informed care. And the next step was to really confirm this factor structure and to assess if it fit a unidimensional model to where all 5 of these factors were kind of blended into a single factor, and then a multi-dimensional model to where these factors were kept separate, but they share an underlying dimension here. So in aim 2, I'm going to put this in my own words here. The second aim of the paper was to examine whether a unidimensional or multi-dimensional model of trauma-informed care was a better fit of the data. Okay, so we have our citation, our reference, and we have our research questions / hypotheses. Next, in the methods, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm pretty much going to put in sections for each component of the methods. I'll start with the design. So here we see in the first sentence that the data were collected using a cross-sectional design. So for design, I'm going to put cross-sectional. And then for the sample, we can see here that there were a total of 641 respondents from 6 human service or agencies or organizations. So for the sample, I'm going to put I'll put staff within 6 human service agencies, and in parentheses, I'll put the sample size. Next, I am going to put in a measures section. So which measures were used in the study. And here I'm going to put TICS, which is a 34-item measure that assesses staff perceptions of the service environment along the 5 dimensions of trauma-informed care, including safety, trust, choice, collaboration, and empowerment. And lastly, I'm going to put analysis and scroll down here to the analytical procedures. and indicate that confirmatory factor analysis was used to confirm the TICS's factor structure / construct validity. And then I'm also going to put that confirmatory factor analysis was used to compare the multidimensional and unidimensional models of TIC. Next, I'm going to scroll down to the results section for key findings. Read through what the results indicate. Now, sometimes the result sections might be filled with a lot of information that isn't necessarily intuitive without a background in statistics. So sometimes the best place to look for the key findings is actually in the discussion section. So I know from reviewing both that the key findings are that the TICS demonstrated good construct validity and reliability. And then going through the results further and comparing the models, I know that the multi-dimensional model of trauma-informed care was a better fit to the data than the unidimensional model. And for this study, those are the primary findings. And then lastly, we want to complete a discussion section. And here is where you want to discuss how these key findings can inform social work practice within your area of focus. So one key discussion point here is that the TICS is a valid and reliable instrument to be used in trauma-informed research. A second key finding in the discussion is that the five values of trauma-informed care share an underlying dimension, but are unique. And in terms of practice, intervention in any of the 5 domains of trauma-informed care, those being safety, trust, choice, collaboration, and empowerment, are likely to impact the other domains because they share an underlying dimension. Okay, so here I've got my first article done. I have the citation, the research questions, hypotheses, or aims. I have the key components of the methodology, including the design, brief description of the sample, measures that were included, and analyses that were used. I have 2 to 3 key findings, and then a brief discussion section that details the relevance of the study and the key findings. So you will all be using the article that you use for the article critique, and then 2 additional articles to where you'll be repeating the same step 2 more times. And really, the purpose of this is to get 3 of the papers that you'll need for the scholarly literature review, and really extracting the key information from 3 studies. Great. Now be sure to let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully you found this helpful.